When I was walking down Lover's Lane, coming back from Rouen, I met a bloke. I never spoke. I didn't think. He looked a bit unusual. I noticed things like that. Yeah. And no gentleman I ever gnawed would go without his hat. Now, Mother told me to hurry up, be home by 8:30. She told me about the birds and bees, and the rest she left to Faye. I forgot to bring me tin opener. And he looked. He went out of bubbles in a minute. He carried on like that. I couldn't. Well, that isn't the script. Oh, no, I forgot where I am there. Yeah. He looked spaced out to me, with bubbles dangling from his head like a flipping Christmas tree.
Come,
he said in a funny voice.
Come and rest upon this bench. Here. You're nearly in your dotage, but you are a lovely little wench. Let me raise you to a cloud up high, to cloud number 9 in the sky.
Not me, I get the vertigo. I'm going home, said I. I get home. I'm going home, said I. I had sudden inspiration how to get rid of him. Come and meet my mother. We'll be up in time for tea. Like a million blokes before, and that frightened he real bad. But I still haven't found a husband, and Mother, she'll be mad. Right, not the next bit. What's that? He's putting me off by plugging.
All the time.
Hey? Oh, no, he lumbered off. And we got a smaller brother. I got to get married very soon just to please me mother. And you, my man, are much too much for a spinster like me to handle. And compared to all the local lads, you couldn't hold a candle. Well, back he come with a smaller one, eventually. I knew we should have practiced. Back he come with a smaller one. He's more my size, I cried. And if he thinks I'm handsome, I'll think he's very wise. The dinky one was overcome, his legs they went awry. I thought 'twas passion, but I was wrong. No fear, he said, not I. They ran back to their spaceship. Ran, not minced. They ran back to their spaceship. It was parked in Munday's field. I thought, well, I suppose that's that. My spinster state is sealed. It took me a fortnight to get there. Me and Mother sat by the fire. Have you met any men, said she. Yes, I said, little and large, but none will do for me. Mother said, you're 42 and long in the tooth. You can't be fussy, said she. How did he ask that Gascoigne bloke to come for Sunday tea? What I said, not on your Nelly. I'd sooner remain single. He haven't got no hair, no teeth, no car, only a pony and jingle. I often think now I'm 92 of the men from space that I met. Did I dream it all? I don't know. Or were they local lads out for a bet? I look at me husband, warm flesh and blood, just snoozing on the settle, and I'm so glad I didn't end up with a bloke who's made of metal. Come on, dearest, Bedtime, dear. If the excitement isn't too much for him, I think I was better off the alien, didn't I?
We all better be careful going home tonight. We don't know who we might meet. Might even meet James McFarland. Talk about aliens. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the audience, I put it to you that you're about to experience an emanation of extemporaneous entertainment. A double loop for that, I think. Our experienced and talented folk performer and inventive silversmith, Mr. Dave Leggett, will perform a concordant cantilena, itself accompanied by the syncopation of his squeeze box. In an expert elucidation of a Yorkshire yarn based on our favourite candescent gustation, please relish a portion of fish and chips.
Hey, there's a lot of you here. Can you all hear me up the back? Aye. You poor buggers. I just got these from Sid's Fish and Chip shop out back. They're lovely, but they need a bit of salt and vinegar on them, so if you just excuse me, there seems to be some down here. Oh, that's better. Now, did you remember when they used to put the newspapers around the fish and chips? Did you even read the things on the newspapers? There's a good one here, actually. I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't say it because it might put you off your tea, but it appears that horse meat has been found in Cornish pasty. Anyhow, speaking of horse, I think I'd better lubricate my throat because I think I'm going to sing a bit of a song. Just hold on a minute. That's rum tasting vinegar. Right, now, because these fish and chips are likely to get cold while I'm singing for you, I think you'd better have something, so there we go. Last one, would you like it?
We haven't got any.
Right, we got that over with. Here we go then. Some people from Yorkshire, they like Yorkshire pudding. Some people from Paris like frogs. When I went to Blackpool for my holiday, well, I met with the shawls and the clogs. A Lancashire lass, as I happened to pass, took a fancy to me on the spot. A courting we went, I said, you smell of scent. Is it lilac? She said, no, it's not. It's chips and fish, chips and fish. Hey, by gum, what a champion dish. Oh, what a smell when you fry 'em. Just take a pellet and dry 'em. Put some salt and vinegar on, as much as ever you wish. You can do without supper if you've got a bobs with the chips and fish. We walked hand in hand down the edge of the strand, and we kissed by the silvery sea. We spent half an hour on top of the tower and called up 5 penn'orth for tea. The time came to part, I was sick to me heart. To the station we had to make hay. She boarded the train, and we kissed once again. And oh, how I savoured the taste of those chips and fish, chips and fish. He, by gum, what a champion dish. Oh, what a smell when you fry 'em. Just take a penn'orth and try 'em. Put some salt and vinegar on, as much as ever you wish. You can do without supper if you've got a bob of the chips and fish. Now some travels I've had, Hong Kong, Trinidad, I've partaken of every cuisine. Italian spaghetti, my stomach upsetty, and by gum, those curries are mean. You get nasty diseases from eating French cheeses, and German frankfurters are worse. And though I like to eat stewed tripe and pig's feet, there's one dish will always come first, and it's chips and fish, chips and fish. Hey, by gum, what a champion dish. Oh, what a smell when you fry 'em. Just take a penn'orth and try 'em. Put some salt and vinegar on, as much as ever you wish. You can do without supper if you've got a bob's worth of chips and fish. Last time you can do without supper if you've got a bob's worth of chips and fish.
However, before all this excitement, we have the final performance of the first half. I'd just like to say I'd like you all to acknowledge the vigorous virtuosity in brushing the ivories and commend his steadfast attempts to stun our senses. Please show your appreciation for Mr. Robin Bates. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, although I certainly cannot match this person's word skills, I am delighted to introduce the much-travelled academician, Mr. J.X. Goodrill, who will interpret his monologue with a demonstration upon that musical wonder of the Western world and a favourite of Queen Victoria, the newly patented banjo. Is Andy Baker in the room?
No. No. Okay.
Okay. Mr. J.X. Goodrill.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It was intended to give a display of Queen Victoria's favourite instrument, but I had a telegram this afternoon which said that Prince Albert is unfortunately deceased. So I shall play the banjo. This is the melody that the band leader Wallace Hartley chose for his final performance. He didn't know it was going to be his final performance. He was the band leader on the Titanic. This was the melody that they were playing at the moment that it hits the iceberg. It's by the English composer Archibald Joyce, and it's called A Dream of Autumn. Dangerous to show enthusiasm for
quiet please, because what I'm saying is quite important. You may not think so, but it's important to me. Yeah. We're all familiar with the Antiques Roadshow on television, where experts pronounce their opinions on what is bought and where they have been made and who they have been made by. Like me, you will have been impressed by the incredible knowledge and skill, always finishing with an accurate estimation of the object's value. Unfortunately, we do not have anybody like that here tonight. But we do have two antique gentlemen who will be trying to do their best in difficult circumstances. I give you Paul and Derek Basie in the Antiques Roadshow curtain, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As you're aware, you've seen all these programs on written back or whatever. We are here, myself and Derek, to assess any valuables that you might have brought along tonight for us to look at. Now then, you might realise that I've had a little drink or two, but don't worry about that, because you've got valuable antiques. Derek, who is practising sobriety and hasn't had a drink for 2 years. That's correct. Isn't that right, Derek? Derek will be handling your valuable antiques, and he's as sober as a judge, and I assure you that he will be very careful with any valuable items you have to produce tonight.
Indeed, I will, sir.
Yeah, you will do that, Derek?
I will indeed.
And you haven't had a drink for years, have you?
18 months, sir.
18 months. Well, that is very, very good indeed. Now, without messing about too much, I hope that one or two people in the hall have brought along one of their two little knickknacks, things they found here, things they found there, to come along and bring to show, to see if we can evaluate and see if they're worth any money. Now then, is there anybody here? Has anybody come along? Yes, sir. What have you got? Yes, sir. What have you got there?
I've got a very old bottle of brandy.
Well, wait a minute, sir. Let's bring it at the stage first of all. Can we get the bottle of old brandy at the stage? And when we get at the stage, be careful with this. Be careful with this. Very old bottle. Very old bottle of brandy. Very old bottle of brandy. Be careful. Can you pass it to my assistant Derek, who is very, very trained in the aspect of handling old antiques and all that sort of stuff. Right. Now, sir, what's your name?
Danny.
Mr. Danny. Mr. Danny, can you tell me about this bottle? Sir?
Well, that bottle of brandy,
yes, my
great-great-grandfather was in the Grenadier Guards and fought at Waterloo.
Oh, yes.
When we eventually beat the French,
yes,
my great-grandfather went with Wellington, yes, to clear out Napoleon's tent.
Yes, indeed.
All his bottles of brandy, which was his personal
right.
So Wellington gave all his bottles of brandy to all the rest of the troops. Unfortunately, my great-grandfather had a bottle, and it's been in my family ever since.
Do you know that is
please be careful with it, because
don't you worry, sir. If it's in Derek's hands, don't you worry, sir. If it's in Derek's hands, it will be fine. You don't need to worry. Now, we all know that the Battle of Waterloo was fought in 1815. And what we now know is that Napoleon, being a bit of a Frenchy smart-ass, he was convinced he was going to win the Battle of Waterloo, and he had bottles of brandy made with his own picture on with his own portrait on there. And we do know that's right. That's what happened. Is that when Derek, you all right, Derek? you haven't been doing naughty, have you?
No, sir. No,
And we do know. We do know that Wellington stormed into Napoleon's tent and handed his bottles out to his troops. Now most of them drank that night, but some of them, somebody said, I'm going to keep that as a memento. And that is one of those bottles I think we have there. Now I'm aware of an auction recently where one of those bottles came and said, I'm aware of an auction where one of those bottles went for 5,000 guineas. Now that could well set you up for life. Now, are you looking after that bottle, Derek?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You'll keep an eye on it.
Perfectly good condition.
Right, I want you to keep an eye on it.
Hey!
Pardon? Excuse me, what's your problem, sir? Now then, I think it's time I looked at this bottle to see whether it is a genuine article. Derek, when you've got a minute, when you're not messing about, is there any chance I might look at this bottle? I see. There's no doubt about it from the label, sir, that this is a genuine article. Unfortunately, somebody has opened the cork and somebody's missing. So therefore, I'm afraid it isn't worth much money at all. These things happen. Derek, just put that somewhere safe. There is some still value in it. You put that somewhere safe, Derek, and keep an eye on it. You will do that, won't you, Derek? Right. Now then, we now have to go. We now need to know if anybody else in the audience has brought along any items which they think might be valuable.
Yeah. I've recently come across this blue vase.
Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. There's a gentleman here going to collect this vase. This is a very interesting item. Could you bring it up and hand it to Derek? Because Derek, who practices sobriety, and if you pass that to Derek, then we're in no danger of this vase being damaged. Now just let me have a quick glimpse at this vase. I can tell you from a very a quick glimpse. Just wait a minute. I can tell you. From a very quick glimpse of this vase that I believe it's Venetian. In the 15th century. Was the best. You're not messing about, are you, Derek? Venetian glassware was the best. In the 15th century, they produced coloured glassware. It was blue, it was opaque, and it was yellow, and that sort of stuff. They were able to enamel it and put gilt on it. Now, from my quick glimpse, from my quick glimpse at this vase, I'm convinced this is a 15th century Venetian vase. Whoa! Now then, you are wondering, why does it end up... Oh, tell me, I've forgotten to ask you all about it. I know what. You tell me all about it.
We've recently moved into this wonderful house in Cadgwith.
Oh yes. Where? Right.
And in the cellar we have a That horse.
Ah! Now you've told me this story. Now you've told me this story, it all fits in. You are wondering why such a valuable vase, you're not missing about, are you, Derek? Why such a valuable vase should end up in a little place in Cadgwith. I will tell you why. Because smuggling, you see. After the French Revolution, all the French chopped off the heads of the aristocratics. So they didn't have any money left. They stormed their house, nicked all this stuff, and they couldn't sell anybody. So when they smuggled tobacco and stuff over England, they put a few of these things in, you see, into them. And that's why I end up here. So people in Cadgwith go, oh, I know what to do with tobacco. I know what to do with all this spirit, but they know what to do with a Venetian. That's why it's there, in your smuggler's hole. That's what. Derek, is everything all right, Derek?
Yes, sir. Yes, perfectly all right, sir. Yeah.
Right. Well, we haven't got a problem there.
Vase.
We haven't got a problem there, have we, Derek?
No, sir.
No. Good. I'm glad we haven't got a problem there, Derek, with this very expensive vase, which I think could be worth at least 5,000 guineas. Provided it's not been damaged. Derek, we've got to go to the next article very soon, Derek. Yes. So are we ready to do that?
I'll put it to one side.
You put it to one side, Derek. You put that vase to one side. It's very valuable, and put it somewhere where it won't get damaged. Are you going to do that, Derek? Good. I'm glad you're going to do that. Put that vase to one side, where it is safe.
Back room, sir.
Can we go on to the next?
Quite safe, sir.
Oh, good. That's very good. Can we go on to the next article? Right. Is there anybody here? I don't know whether anybody's brought anything or not. Has anybody?
Can you tell me much this dollar's worth?
Ah, what is it? It's a doll. It's wrapped in paper. Oh, look at that. Could you, young gentlemen, if you could go on there and bring that doll. Bring that doll along here for me to examine. Yes. Can you tell me, bring that doll up here first. Can you tell me something about that doll, which I forgot to ask the last lady? Can you tell me what you know about that doll?
Well, I used to play with it when I was a child.
Yes.
My grandmother told me she used to play with it.
Right.
And her grandmother used to play with it as well.
So it goes back generations.
It's been in the family for hundreds of years.
Has it now?
It's very precious.
It's very precious. You wouldn't want to see it damaged, would you? No. Well, fortunately, Derek has been trained in the handling of delicate antiques. Now, just by glancing at this, I can tell you a few things about it. This doll is made of bisque, B-I-S-Q-U. It's French. It's French. I believe it's either French or German. These are the most collectible dolls ever. They are worth thousands of pounds. Now, where it came from, we're not sure. The easy way to tell is that on the back of the neck, it actually got the inscription. And I believe this is a Jumeau doll. Derek, could you just look at the back of the neck and see if it's got the words Jumeau there? Could you just have a look?
Just a minute, so I'll just
have a look, Derek.
I'll have a look.
Well, there might, if it might be the words K-R.
Actually got that name you mentioned.
It has indeed.
Yes,
well, let's put that to one side, shall we, Derek? Put it somewhere safe, because we don't want to get it damaged anyway, do we, Derek? Right, have you that somewhere safe, Derek?
Yes, sir.
Is
Yes,
it?
sir.
It hasn't been damaged, has it, Derek?
No, it's perfectly in good condition, sir.
Sorry.
It's worth quite a lot of money, sir.
Well, no. Sorry, I think it's the lights give the effect that something's gone wrong. It's the gas lights, you see. They give. Now then, we now come to. We now come to. Derek, have you been a good boy? You haven't been drinking alcohol, have you? Or anything like that? Because I believe now that all these people here are going to witness something important, the most important thing in the history of the art world. Because I'm going to ask a gentleman who I saw earlier to tell me about something that we have been presented with. Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
Now tell me, sir, tell me about something that we've now
Well,
got.
I brought this painting along earlier, which I believe you have up there on stage.
Yes,
and
yes.
I wondered if it's worth anything.
Well, I would like to know, I've had a sneak preview, I would like to know about the background to this painting.
Well, I'm an archaeologist, and I was working in London, and I met a man in a public house.
Yes.
He gambled his fortunes away.
Oh, yes.
And desperate for money. He returned with his painting, and asked if it was worth any money. I said, I'll give you 50 guineas for that painting.
Yes.
And there it is. Perhaps you can tell me something about it.
And that's why it's here. That is the most amazing story, ladies and gentlemen. It is an amazing story. Because, as you well know, what we know as the Mona Lisa is in the Louvre in Paris. But there has always been a suggestion in the art world that there was another Mona Lisa. We know from the biography, man, of Leonardo da Vinci, called Giorgio Vasari. He recorded that there was another unfinished picture of the Mona Lisa. Now then, the Mona Lisa we have in Paris would already been accounted for, so we believe there could well have been another Mona Lisa. Now then, you are going to see something so astounding. Now then, a man called Laker went to a house in Somerset and discovered what he thought was a Mona Lisa. He took it to his studio in Isleworth. And it's never been heard of since. Now I believe that man that you met in a pub, the drunkard, down his uppers, sold you what I believe is the second Mona Lisa. Derek, uncover the painting, Derek.
It is.
Now just look at that. Now then, you haven't been drinking at all, have you, Derek? No. Now I need you to keep an eye on this picture, because we're talking about not thousands of pounds, millions of pounds. Now what I want to tell you about the picture, there are subtle things about the Mona Lisa. And one of them being her smile. Her subtle smile. And I can see the reaction, because when you see her subtle smile, her cheeky little smile, it makes you yourself laugh, doesn't it? It does indeed. That's what it does. Yes. And Derek, you're not messing about, are you, Derek? And you have no drink, have you? Now, another thing. Don't drink, sir. You don't drink. That's very good. You don't drink at all. No. And you've been keeping an eye on Mr. Danny's bottle of brandy, haven't you? That's nice to know. Now, the other thing you'll notice, when you look at a true Leonardo da Vinci picture, you'll notice, for instance, you look at the nose. If you look at the nose, there's a subtle hint of a hue of red. Now, have you noticed that? Have you noticed? Now, Derek, I hope you're keeping good care of this painting, because we now get the conclusion it's worth £1 million. £1 million? Millions and millions of pounds. Now, the other thing you notice, you've all been to an art gallery. You've all been to an art gallery. You've all been to an art gallery. Where, when you look at the painting, it feels as if the eyes are falling around the room. Now then, what you notice about a Leonardo da Vinci picture is that it's more so than anything else. So if you walk around the room, then the eyes... and that suggests to me that if you are seeing, then this is probably a true Leonardo da Vinci picture. Where's my... Well, there we are. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've discovered some very valuable items this evening. Probably worth millions of pounds. Fortunately, none of them have been damaged. Derek has been careful enough not to... Derek?
Yes, sir.
He's here. The man is here. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little hitch here. We've got to up it for a minute.
Evening all. I'm Detective Inspector Nicholas Nickham, known as Nick Nick to me mates. Now, I'm in pursuit of a couple of antique conmen who pretend to vandalise works of art while making off with the real thing. So I want to know if anyone here has seen them this evening. Are you sure you haven't seen them this evening? They're what?
They're behind you!
No, they're not behind me. Now, come on, I'm going to have you lot for wasting police time.
They're behind you!
Come on, Jerry.
Come here, you two.